Okay, bonjour la classe. So, hopefully now you've logged in and you're ready to do a bit of French work for the day. So, let's get started. In front of you, you've got your title, Là où j'habite. Là où j'habite, where I live. Okay. So, as you've probably guessed then, what we're going to be talking about today is where we live. Continuing on from talking about our town and what's in our town from last week. Our objective is to be able to describe where we live geographically. By that I just mean, can we say if we live in the north, the east, the south or the west? Okay, as well as giving some other details about where we live, about our town, for example, about our house as well. Okay, so our first activity is going to be a match-up. Our second activity is going to be a listening activity for a change, so you'll be able to hear me read a bit of French, which should hopefully give you a bit of practice, which is always good. Then the third one, read the texts and locate where people live on the map. So that will be self-explanatory when we see it. And then finally, we've got a few reading comprehension tasks for you to complete there as well. Okay, so for your date today, if you would like to refer to the date on lesson board, okay, on the VLE, that will be there for you to copy down. Okay, so maybe pause the video now to give you a couple of minutes to note down the title and the objective before resuming when I'll join you on the next slide. Okay, so first task then, relier et copier les mots. So join up and copy the words. Okay, so on the left hand side we've got a list of words that you might be able to recognise because some of them look similar, some of them are cognates. Okay, if you think about un village, if you think about une région, words like that might leap out at you because they look similar to English. So all we're doing here is we are joining the French and English words and copying them down in our books, hopefully in the right order. Okay, so I will leave you to that now, remembering to look out for those cognates and similar sounding words to help you out with the work there. Okay, so again, if you want to pause the video while you get some work done, while you get the task done, then we will resume on the answer slide. Okay, so well done for matching those up. Here are your answers, here are your corrections. So as you can see, j'habite is I live, something you should all hopefully remember from the basic questions we covered at the start of the year. Où habites-tu? You might have said j'habite à Holbeach, for example. If you live in Holbeach, you might have said a different place if you live somewhere else. Okay, so j'habite is I live. Une grande ville is a large town or a city. You'll note in French they don't have a specific word for a city, they just refer to it as a large town. Okay? Next, une ville. So if you worked out what une grande ville is, a large town or a city, then you'll realise that une ville is a town. So give yourself a tick if you got that one right. Next one then, un quartier. Un quartier. So un quartier is a neighbourhood. Now one way of maybe working that out is if you think to your history lessons, okay, a quarter, you can refer to a quarter in English like the quarter of a city. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. No, can't think of an example, sorry about that. Yeah, but if you think of the quarter of a city, it sort of looks like that word, and that could help you, think of a neighbourhood. Next, we've got un village, which is a village, you've guessed it, well done. Next one, une région, which is a region. If you say that in an English accent, it gives you the answer. Anyway, it's spelled exactly the same with the difference of that one accent there. So well done if you got that one correct. Next, easy peasy, we did this last week. Il y a is there is or there are. Okay, and as we know, il n'y a pas de, when we've got that nope sandwich, when we've got ne and ne pas, it's negative, so that will be there is or there aren't. So give yourself a tick if you got that correct as well. Next one, again, word looks a little bit similar here. Dans le nord is in the north. Au sud is in the south. And à l'est is in the east. Okay, so if you need a couple of minutes to make a couple of corrections in a different coloured pen, feel free to pause the video now, and again we'll rejoin each other on the next slide to continue with the lesson. Okay, so on this slide what we've got is we've got a sentence builder, a key bit of some key vocabulary to help you answer the question of where you live, okay, in more detail then. In the first column, you'll notice we've got all the vocab related to my town and different sort of sections of a town, if you like, or regions, and we go as big as a country at the bottom. Okay, so first of all, we've got j'habite dans, I live in, une grande ville, a large town or a city, une petite ville, a small town, un village, a village, un quartier, a neighbourhood, une région, a region or a county. That's probably the word we use for county in English. And finally, un pays, which is a country. Okay, next one, directions or locations. So we've got à l'est de l'Angleterre, so to the east of England, au sud de la France, to the south of France, au sud-est du Royaume-Uni. So you'll notice with the directions there, okay, they work very similar to English. Okay, so to the east of England is fairly straightforward, and then when you've got a sort of combined direction like southeast, it is formed in more or less the same way as we would in English. You take those two words and you pop a little hyphen in the middle, and that gives you that. Okay, so another key word here we've got on here is the word près. Okay, près means near, in this case près de la campagne. It's near to the countryside. That one might be particularly relevant for us as we live in Lincolnshire. It's quite rural. Next we've got loin, which is far, okay, or far from. Loin de, far from. Okay, so près is close or near, and loin is far. Okay, so two key words worth noting down there, guys. Okay, next one, in my town. Okay, so this is, I'm not going to go over this too much because this is the vocabulary that we were looking at last week, and you've all had a chance to familiarise yourself with what is in the town. Okay, just note in there then that when you've got the plural, okay, it's got a de in front of it often, an s or an x on the end, but you don't pronounce that x. So des bureaux, you'll note, is some offices, but you won't hear that x sound. Okay. Just a bit of info for you there. And then finally, last but not least, again, I'm not going to go through this too much because we've done opinions before. We all know what j'aime means. We all know what je n'aime pas means. Okay, I like and I don't like. There are a couple of words in there, though, maybe worth noting. Bruyant or bruyante, or petit or petite, grand or grande. The sound changes depending on whether it's masculine or feminine. So that last letter, the penultimate letter of that word, when there's an E on the end, is pronounced when there's an E on the end. If there's no E on the end, it's silent. So listening again, petit, masculine, no E on the end. Petite, feminine, there's an E on the end, because so near that T. Okay, so if you want a couple of minutes to have a read back through that vocabulary yourself, you're more than welcome to do so. Okay, so pause the video now, you'll be able to read through the vocabulary, and I will once again rejoin you on the next slide. Okay, so on this task then we've got a listening task. Even on this slide we've got a listening task. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read out 3 sentences, and all I want you to do is to jot down the number of the sentence that I read out. I would like to jot down the number of the sentence that I read out. Okay, what I suggest you do before I start reading is if you want to pause quickly, you may, to have a read through the sentences to familiarise yourself with the vocabulary so you can get a better idea of the ones that I am going to read. Okay, so you can do that now if you like. If you feel fairly comfortable from the off, then good. And without further ado, I'll read those sentences and you can write down the numbers. Okay, so j'habite dans une grande ville dans le nord de l'Angleterre. J'habite dans une grande ville dans le nord de l'Angleterre. Okay, so that was your first sentence there, writing down a number. Second sentence then. J'habite dans un village au sud de la France. J'habite dans un village au sud de la France. Okay, that was our second sentence. And our final sentence and third and final sentence. J'habite près de la mer. J'habite près de la mer. Okay, so making a note of the sentences before we, the numbers, pardon, and before we move on to the next slide. If you would like to challenge yourself a little bit further here, you're more than welcome to translate the three sentences into English that I just read. And you can pause the video and do that now if you want to challenge yourself. Okay. So, 1, 2 and 5. Well done. If you got those correct, very well done. Okay, j'habite dans une grande ville dans le nord de l'Angleterre. I live in a big town or a city in the north of England. Well done, especially well done if you've translated that as well. Give yourself a pat on the back. Number 2, j'habite dans un village au sud de la France. So, I live in a, you've guessed it, village in the south of France. Okay, I live in a village in the south of France. Okay, so well done again if you translated that one, and well done if you've got it right, you got it correct. Next, our third and final one then. J'habite près de la mer. J'habite près de la mer. Cool, I wish. I live near to the sea. Okay, I live near to the sea. So well done if you got that one right and you translated it. Excellent stuff. Give yourself a tick. Okay, moving on then, folks. So fortunately for you guys, you're hearing a little bit less of my voice, okay, as we move through to a reading task. Now, for this reading task, we've got to locate where each of these people live on the map. Okay, we've got to locate where each of these people live on the map. So you've got 4 numbers situated on the map, roughly spread around France, and we've got to use our newfound knowledge of locations, of directions in French to situate those names on the map. If we have a look at the example together then, number 1, we'll just read through this one. J'habite à Marseille, une grande ville, so a city. I live in Marseille, a city, dans le sud de la France, in the south of France. Now there's only one marker that is in the south of France, so you would have guessed it by now, I'm sure. Ma ville, c'est au bord de la mer. Yeah, if we have a look at that number 1, it's by the sea as well. Yeah. Dans ma ville, il y a beaucoup de magasins. In my town, there are a lot of shops. So that's a bit of extra information that we can't necessarily tell on the map, but we can be fairly sure that Jean lives in by number 1, which is Marseille. Okay. So what I'm going to let you do now is pause the video again, read through the rest of the texts there. We'll be using them for the rest of the lesson. Read through the rest of the texts and note down the correct name next to the correct number. Okay, using your newfound knowledge of those directions. Okay, so if you'd like to pause the video now while I let you get on with that, and we'll rejoin each other on the next slide for the answers. Okay, so well done if you've completed that now. Okay, good stuff. So we notice that what we already knew that 1 was Jean. That was our example because he said j'habite dans le sud. J'habite à Marseille, une grande ville dans le sud de la France, in the south of France, and that's the only one in the south of France. That was our clue. Okay, so number 2, Thibaut. So we're moving down to the third one there. Okay, j'habite dans une région dans l'ouest de la France. He lives in a region in the west of France. Now, if you have a look at that map, nobody else lives in the west of France. And he says près de la montagne, so near the mountains. If points to anybody that can sort of that knows the mountains there, the mountains that Thibaut is near are obviously the Alps. I think roughly placed on that map, it's the Alps. Okay, number 3, Anne, j'habite dans un village, so she lives in a village, dans l'Est, in the east of France, dans l'Est de la France. Okay, and again, only person in the east of France there, so it's fairly conclusive after that first sentence. Last but not least, we've got Maxine, number 4, and we'll have a read anyway, even though we know it's her because it's the last one left over. J'habite dans le nord de la France, dans une grande ville qui s'appelle Lille. Now, any of you keen geographers there will probably notice that my 4 isn't exactly on Lille. Lille is probably slightly further north than that, to be honest. We're probably closer to Paris there, but there we go, that's my tech skills at play. Yeah, so Maxine, from that first sentence, j'habite dans le nord de la France. I live in the north of France. Again, she's the only one in the north of France, so that's how we worked out it was her. So well done if you got all of them correct. Okay. If you didn't manage to get them correct, maybe worth having a read back over those different directions: north, east, south, and west. Nord, est, sud, et ouest. Okay, having a look back over them, because they were your key words there to help you out. Okay, so if you need to take down the corrections, if you haven't already done so, you can pause the video now, that's fine. But we will move on to the next activity. Okay, lire, so to read. What I want you to do is, well, we've got a couple of activities on this slide. Reread the texts and complete the following tasks. So for the first task then, find the equivalent of the following phrases. So I want you to find the French equivalent of the phrases below. So I live in the south of France would be, to give you the first one, j'habite au sud de la France. J'habite au sud de la France. Okay, and then we've got other little morsels of sentences there that you can pick out, keywords that will help you get a better understanding of all of those texts as a whole. Okay, so the next one then, on top of that, answer the following questions with the correct name. So, qui habite au sud de la France? Qui habite au sud de la France? We know that one is Jean. Jean lives in the south of France. Who lives in the south of France? Jean lives in the south of France. Okay, so we've got questions asking who does what, and what you have to do is note down the name. Okay, you have to note down the name that answers that question effectively. Okay, qui is who. And then finally, last task then for us here is to translate the below sentences into English. So we've got j'habite près de la mer. We've got j'habite dans un village au sud de la France. And j'habite dans une grande ville dans le nord de l'Angleterre. So we've got some key sentences there for you to translate. For those keen-eyed students among you, if you've already done the extension after the listening task, you'll notice that they are the sentences there, so you're ahead of the game, and you only have to do 2 activities because you've already got that one done, so well done. Okay, so once again, pause the video, I'll let you get on with the questions, the activities, and we'll rejoin each other on the next slide to have a look at the answers, folks. Okay, so well done for making it this far. The first one then, I live in the south of France. J'habite au sud de la France. So well done if you got that one correct. By the sea is au bord de la mer. I would also accept près de la mer. If you've written près de la mer, that is perfectly fine as well. But près on its own doesn't mean near. Okay, so just bear that one in mind. There are a lot of shops. That's our good old friend beaucoup again popping up a lot. Il y a beaucoup de magasins. Yeah, there are a lot of shops. Give yourself a tick if you got that one correct. Next, it's near the sea and the countryside. C'est près de la mer et la campagne. C'est près de la mer et la campagne. Okay, so it's near the sea and the countryside. Next, far from the sea is loin de la mer. Loin de la mer. It's rubbish. C'est nul. C'est nul. There's a stadium. Il y a un stade. Il y a un stade. I'm a sports fan. Je suis fan de sport. Je suis fan de sport. you'll notice we pronounce that N on the end of fan, yeah, much like it's in English, but you sort of exaggerate it a little bit. So, je suis fan de sport. My sister likes going shopping. Ma sœur aime faire du shopping. Ma sœur aime faire du shopping. So that's all of the equivalent French phrases there. Next then, answering those questions. Qui habite au sud de la France? We've got Jean as our example. He lives in the south of France. Qui habite dans un village près de la mer? Who lives in a village near the sea? And that was Anne. Qui est fan de sport? That was Thibaut. Qui n'aime pas sa région? That was Thibaut again. Qui habite loin de la mer? That would have been Maxime. Qui adore son village? And that is Anne. Okay, so your answers to the questions were Jean for the example, Anne, Thibaut, Maxime, and Anne. Okay, last one then. Translate the sentences below into English. Now, if those people who have already done this for the other task, you can now put your feet up. You've finished the lesson, well done. For those of us that did it just now, we'll have a look. Okay, j'habite près de la mer. I live near the sea. J'habite dans un village au sud de la France. I live in a village in the south of France. And number 3, j'habite dans une grande ville dans le nord de l'Angleterre. I live in a city in the north of England. Okay, so well done to everybody. That's the end of the lesson. As usual, if you've got any questions or any work you'd like to submit, feel free to send that to me via email, and you'll find my email obviously on lesson board. Okay, so if you have a look click on that little information box on lesson board, my email's there. If you want to send any work through or have any questions, anything that you're confused about, feel free to fire me an email. Okay, well, that's us done for today's lesson. So à bientôt, à demain. See you soon, see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day.